Oh, there's so many yummy vegetarian options out there. You could try like lentil soup, veggie burgers, tofu stir fry. The possibilities are endless.
For years, police across 3 different countries were completely stumped. And then, out of nowhere, a user on a little-known subreddit posts a confession. A confession so detailed, so precise, it could only have come from the killer himself. This is the story of how one digital detective, just scrolling through the endless noise of the internet, found a single thread that would unravel one of the most chilling and bizarre murder mysteries of our time. It's a story that doesn't begin with a scream in a dark alley, but with the quiet click of a keyboard.
So, for the better part of a decade, the situation was just a series of tragic, but what everyone thought were totally isolated incidents. Okay, so check this out. Between 2011 and 2016, you have 5 young Asian women discovered in 5 different countries. The first found outside Kuala Lumpur, the next in a canal in Bangkok, then Singapore, and finally 2 more in Taipei and Manila. Now, these women were all in their 20s. They were students, waitresses. On the surface, they had nothing in common. The only link anyone could see was their ethnicity. And you gotta understand, the local police in each of these places, they worked these cases hard, but they kept hitting a wall. There were no witnesses, no clear motives. A lot of the victims were transient, kind of living off the grid, which made it even tougher. Each investigation just went cold. They were filed away as separate tragedies, happening oceans apart. It was this massive fog that completely hid the pattern. And a killer, if there was one, could hide right in plain sight, protected by borders and bureaucracy. So where does the first real break come from? Well, it doesn't come from an evidence locker, but from a hard drive, all the way over in Vancouver. In 2017, there's this Canadian digital forensics analyst, a guy named Leo, who's got a passion for cold cases. And as a personal project, he starts building this huge database of unsolved crimes across Southeast Asia, just looking for connections. And as he's digging through all this data, he spots something. Something that every single one of these separate police forces had missed. The women hadn't just been killed. They had been posed. Each one was found with her hands carefully folded over her chest. And on each victim's wrist was a small, cheap jade bracelet, a bracelet that didn't belong to any of them. This wasn't random. This was a signature, a calling card. So Leo, thinking he's cracked it, publishes his findings on this niche true crime forum. He suggests the serial killer is moving across international borders. And yeah, it got some buzz online, but official channels, they pretty much just dismissed it. The jurisdictional walls were too high, the evidence, they said, was just circumstantial. So the thread was there, but it was a dead end. For now. And then, 2 years later, everything changes. In the spring of 2019, on the subreddit r/TrueCrimeAsia, a user with a brand new account posts a thread. The title? I think I know who the Jade Killer is. But this guy, using the handle seeker_of_quiet, wasn't claiming to be a detective. No, he claimed to be the killer. And what he posted, it wasn't some crazy boastful rant. It was cold. It was clinical, almost like a lab report. The post laid out facts, one by one. First, it listed all 5 victims by their real names, names the media had never linked together. Then it described the exact knot used to bind their wrists, a detail police had kept secret. It even said where he bought the jade bracelets, a specific market in Hong Kong. He explained his motive for posing the bodies, some twisted ritual of returning peace. And the most chilling part? It laid out a perfect travel itinerary for a shipping logistics manager, a route that lined up perfectly with the cities and dates of every single murder.
17 minutes. That's all it was live before a moderator yanked it down. But you know how the internet works. In those 17 minutes, it was screenshotted, and it went absolutely viral.
Okay, so now the game is on. The digital world and the real world just slammed into each other. This wasn't a theory anymore. It was a manifesto. Reddit admins, under huge legal pressure, scrambled to hand over IP data to a new international task force. But the IP address? It led to a cyber cafe in Macau. Basically a dead end. But here's the thing, the text itself, that became the key. So they bring in the forensic linguists, right? These guys pored over every single word, and the clues just started popping out. First, they noticed this weird mix of British and American English spelling. Then, the vocabulary. He used super technical shipping jargon like a pro. But they also found these subtle grammatical slip-ups, the kind a native Mandarin speaker might make, even a really well-educated one. You see, the text was becoming its own kind of fingerprint.
Suddenly, they had a crystal clear profile. They were looking for a Chinese man, probably 35 to 45 years old. He works in international shipping or logistics and travels all over Southeast Asia. And his personality? He's arrogant, he's meticulous, and he craves recognition for his work. The task force now had a psychological profile, a professional profile. They had a map. All they needed was a name.
So how do they find him? Well, believe it or not, it all came down to a spreadsheet. The Reddit post gave them specific details about shipping companies, so investigators from all 5 countries started pooling passenger manifests, cargo logs, and employee records. Think about it. The search was for one person. Just one guy who was in Kuala Lumpur in March 2011, Bangkok in November 2012, Singapore in July 2014, and so on. The list was long, sure, but it wasn't infinite. And when they cross-referenced it with that linguistic and psychological profile, things got very clear very fast. And as they crunched the numbers, one name just kept floating to the top: Zhang Wei, a 42-year-old logistics coordinator. His travel documents, a perfect match for the murder timeline. His work reviews described him as brilliant but isolated and meticulous to a fault. Colleagues said he was a total loner who talked a lot about cleansing and order. So in October 2019, Zhang Wei gets off a ferry in Macau, and boom, he's surrounded by a joint team of Chinese and Interpol officers. He didn't even try to resist. And when they showed him a printout of the Reddit post in the interrogation room, he reportedly just smiled and said, "I wondered when you would read it." And back at his apartment, the evidence was just overwhelming. Police found a box full of those same jade bracelets. And on his laptop, they found photos of the victims and drafts of the Reddit post that ended up being his downfall. He had written it months before, just savoring it. Zhang Wei confessed to everything and was sentenced to life in prison. Justice, in a way, was served. So case closed, right? Well, not exactly. Because this whole resolution leaves us with a much deeper, much more unsettling question. I mean, think about it. Why would a killer this meticulous, this careful, just confess to the entire world? This case wasn't cracked by a detective following a clue. It wasn't solved by a DNA match. It was solved because the killer wanted it to be solved. He needed an audience. He craved that validation, that perverse recognition for his work. He threw his confession out into the digital void, totally confident he was anonymous, but desperate for someone to see how clever he was. That Reddit post? It was his final narcissistic trophy. And in the end, it was the thing that brought him down. And this, right here, forces us to look at a pretty chilling new reality in the world of true crime. The monster isn't just lurking in the shadows anymore. He's in the comments section. He's listening to the podcasts and reading the forums about himself, just gauging how well we understand him. So the next time you find yourself deep down some internet rabbit hole, scrolling through theories about an unsolved case, just remember the Jade Killer. Remember that sometimes the person everyone is searching for is searching too. And he might just be waiting for the right moment to raise his hand.